What would a Venus in retrograde do? Astrologer Aditya Guruji. As the readers of the series Om Jyothidam Divarahasayam, Astrology a Divine Secret, keep frequently requesting for a detailed explanation and the consequences of retrogression, I am explaining here in this article on Venus on the results of retrogression of a planet. Retrogression is nothing but a differential movement. It is one of the illusions in astrology. It is true that astrology by itself is in a state of illusion and retrogression is an aspect that is further difficult to ascertain. Why I indicate astrology is an illusion is because, though it is well known that Sun is stationary and the planets including the Earth revolve around Sun, predictions in astrology are based on a visible illusionary depiction of Sun revolving around the Earth. With a consideration of this aspect alone, there are people who contend that astrology is farcical, but scientists with a complete knowledge of astronomy do not find fault on this contrasting outlook of astrology. Astronomy is governed by two basic principles. One is the actual reality of Sun taking the center stage and other is the premise that Earth is at the center, as considered in astrology. Modern-day scientists have accepted this Earth-centric philosophy. According to them, as of today, it is absolutely 100% accurate to consider that Rahu is placed in Leo, while modern science accepts the statements made by astrology on the placement of a planet in a house and confirms its occupation in the said house. It is unable to accept the predictions made on the basis of the placement of planet in that house. At the same time it refuses to analyze further and closes its eyes on whether the prediction truthful. Is there a possibility of such a happening? Has it happened before? But it is a welcome step that there are researches undertaken by a few on whether there is something hidden in astrology like that in genetic theory. Importantly, how is that Mars is powerful in all the horoscopes of the doctors? The research happening these days on why is Sun powerful to those engaged with the government, would ultimately lead to acceptance of astrology at a later date by the modern-day science as to what I proudly term as horological science. Retrogression of a planet is an illusion of the planet moving backwards, as observed by the viewers from Earth. When two passengers, traveling by two different trains running parallel and close by, depending on the speed and the distance between the trains, would feel that as though they are stationary and devoid of any movement. When one of the trains speeds up and the distance between them widens, then one would get a feeling of moving backwards. That means, for two nearby objects, the visualization of the scenario would vary with the speed and distance between them. Retrogression is also similar to this aspect. When a planet comes closer to Earth and under circumstances that speeds of Earth and the proximal planet varies, which means that when the Earth or the other planet moves away from each other or when Earth takes the curvature in its orbit around Sun, then there would be a marked difference in the movement of the other planet that is proximal to viewers from Earth. For example, when Jupiter is placed in Leo house, if the distance between Earth and Jupiter varies or when the Earth's orbit changes, then from Earth we would visualize as though Jupiter is moving backwards to Cancer house. This is the phenomenon of retrogression of planets. Actually, retrogression is nothing but a visual illusion. This is not a true status. The rotational movement of planets never increases or decreases. Their velocities are fixed. But due to the distance between the planets, a backward movement is visualized by us when observed from Earth. As it has been realized that under certain circumstances if the word Sun is replaced with Bhumi or Earth, then astrology could be equated with astronomy. An illusion of retrogression of Jupiter, Mars or Saturn is realized whenever they are placed between 5th to 9th houses from Sun. The planets situated in the inner ring between Earth and Sun, like Venus and Mercury, also give an illusion of retrogression when their distance from Earth varies. Their status of retrogression depends on their movement in degrees away from Sun. As they are always observed to be close to Sun in our line of sight, their retrogression would depend on their maximal movement away from Sun and the status of our Earth. For accurate predictions, it is necessary to divide the retrogression of planets to be those of benefic and malefic planets. To put it more precisely, the effects of retrogression has to be analyzed on the basis of their benefic or malefic status with respect to the ascendant. It is general rule that any planet in retrogression would give opposing results in comparison to its natural course of movement. When malefic planets undergo retrogression, then they would disturb the implications of the houses owned by them but would strongly bestow their significations. When benefic planets undergo retrogression, then they would give negative implications with respect to their significations but would give extremely positive outcomes with respect to the aspects of the houses they own. For example, a native with Venus in retrogression may not have a satisfactory marital bliss. In my experience, it is impossible to find a suitable perfect partner to a native with Venus in retrograde. As Venus's important signification is lust or marital pleasure, when it attains retrogression, the native could lose interest in sexual pleasures or he may not find a suitable partner matching his interests. Similarly, the other significations of Venus like house, vehicle etc., would also not be attainable when the Venus becomes retrograde, changing from his beneficial status. When malefic planets attain retrogression, then they bestow their significations more strongly. As they would give the negative results pertaining to their malefic significations, a retrograde malefic does not do good to a native. What would be the effects of retrogression of planets in own house or exaltation? The state of retrogression has some intricate and subtle aspects that could hinder the predictions. Amongst them, the two situations of retrogression in own house and in exaltation are inclusive. The state of exalted retrogression refers to a complete debilitated state. At the same time, the planet would not get weakened as with direct debilitation. When the planet is in an exalted retrograde status, it would certainly have the abilities to bestow its significations with full force. Though an exalted retrograde status is considered to be equivalent to a debilitated state, it should be noted that the planet first gets exalted and then only transforms to the opposite state. Retrogression in one's own house is a completely different proposition. Whatever I have told about implications of houses owned and the significations complete apply to the retrogression in own house. For example, to Aquarius ascendants, if Jupiter, the owner of 2nd and 11th houses, attains retrogression in the 11th house, then he would give the negative implications of the houses owned by him. He would not give beneficial results. For example, the positive implications of the 2nd house are wealth, speaking ability and family, while the negative implication is that it is the Maruka, death-inflicting, house. Jupiter, the benefic, when occupying his own Mul Trikona 11th house with retrogression, during his dasa would spoil the implications of 11th house like elder sibling, profits etc., in the first half. In the second half he would not bestow the positive implications of the 2nd house like wealth, speaking ability, family etc., but would additionally give rise to death-inflicting or worries equivalent to death to the native.